This is Fox 5 News at 10.
Hurricane Charlie roars ashore, promising high winds, heavy rains, and flooding. Tonight, Florida residents who had hoped for the best are now bracing for the worst. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sean Yancey.
And I'm Laura Evans. Tonight, millions of Americans are battening down the hatches. Hurricane Charlie is on land and wreaking havoc, causing severe damage in Florida tonight. Let's go to the Fox 5 storm scan and take a look live at the radar. The hurricane is pummeling Orlando and Tampa areas right now. But Charlie's fury is being felt across all of Florida tonight. In fact, President Bush has declared a state of a major disaster area. As expected, Hurricane Charlie hit the region with pounding rains and mighty gusts of wind. Tonight, we've got team coverage on this, and we begin with Jonathan Siri in Tampa.
Charlie remains a hurricane and is wreaking havoc in central Florida. In the small town of Lake Wales, heavy winds damaged the roof of a nursing home, forcing the evacuation of 300 residents. Charlie did spare the city of Tampa, but earlier today took an unexpected turn to the east, striking southwest Florida with a vengeance. It was a nightmare scenario come true. Hurricane Charlie took an unexpected turn, striking the Florida coast farther south and with more intensity than forecasters had originally predicted.
At approximately 3:45 p.m., the eye of Hurricane Charlie came ashore very close to Sanibel Island and then into Charlotte Harbor as a 145-mile-per-hour maximum sustained wind, Category 4 hurricane.
Making landfall in Charlotte Harbor, the most powerful storm in Florida since Hurricane Andrew, is working its way across the state, leaving a path of destruction in its wake, and officials trying to predict what's next.
Hurricanes aren't linear thinkers. They don't act linearly. They are fierce weather systems that don't go exactly where a computer model will suggest that they go.
In fact, other parts of the state, including Tampa, where the eye was originally expected to hit, went relatively untouched. But Charlie's powerful winds whipped through the small city of Punta Gorda, causing extensive damage to the surprise of both residents and storm experts.
Hurricane forecasting is not a perfect science. There is an uncertainty to those forecasts, and we must respect Mother Nature.
This evening, the eye of the storm passed by the city of Orlando, where sustained winds were clocked at 77 miles per hour. In Tampa, Jonathan Siri, Fox News.
Now, before hitting Florida, the hurricane crossed Cuba and Jamaica, killing 4 people and destroying dozens of buildings.
The Fox 5 Storm Force is watching Charlie's every move tonight because it could be headed here. For the latest on Charlie, let's go down to our weather center now, where Fox 5 meteorologist Gary McGrady has been tracking the storm. Gary, we understand it's been downgraded now a bit?
It has been. It's weakened quite a bit. I mean, keep in mind the eye of this storm now has been over land for quite some time, and it's now down to about 90-mile-per-hour sustained winds. That makes it just a Category 1, but not just a Category 1, a very strong Category 1. Let me go storm scan and show you right now. We get a very good idea what this is happening. Moving into Orlando, it was holding on to its eye. As you see here, notice the little eye right up into Orlando. That's the strongest part of this hurricane. It moves out of Orlando now, closing in on Daytona Beach. And yes, it does look like it's going to emerge back into the Atlantic now, with the possibility of strengthening even more. Satellite picture will show you in motion here what we saw today. It's a fairly small hurricane now, Charlie is, and in terms of rainfall, that's the good news. You see the cloud tops here, the very, very bright orange color. That's enhanced cloudiness. That's indicating where the strongest thunderstorms are, the heaviest rain. And again, that is all starting to get stretched out. And once it does move over the Atlantic, we're going to see a rapidly intensifying hurricane here. Winds now 90 miles per hour, movement north-northeast at 25 miles per hour. It's about 10 miles now to the north and northwest of Orlando. Here are the current watches and warnings. And if you notice the pink from, say, well, Cape Hatteras, North Carolina, right up into the Chesapeake Bay, that is a tropical storm watch that is going to be in effect for tomorrow. Right here, we could have tropical storm winds, maybe gusts up to 45 miles per hour tomorrow night and into Sunday morning as this storm gets closer to us. The actual precipitation totals, I think the heaviest rain will stay to the east of us, right along the shore. But right here in the district, if this particular hurricane continues to move along its forecasted path, we could have anywhere between 2 and 4 inches of rain. Again, 4 to 6 inches of rain possible to the extreme eastern sections right along the shoreline there. And that is through the day on Sunday. So still the potential for some flooding rains here. We'll talk more about its exact track when we could start to feel the effects of what is now Hurricane Charlie down to the south. By the time it gets to us Sunday morning, it could still be Tropical Storm Charlie.
All right, Gary, thank you for the update. To give you some perspective here, the storm Charlie was almost as powerful as Hurricane Andrew, which you may remember smashed into South Florida back in 1992 with 165-mile-per-hour winds. That storm killed 43 people and caused $31 billion in damage.
And as you can imagine, Charlie's arrival has caused travel troubles on the roads and in the skies. Tonight, nearly 2 million Floridians have been urged to leave their homes and head to safer ground. And up and down the East Coast, thousands are stuck at airports as airlines are forced to cancel flights. Fox 5's Bob Barnard surveyed the scene from Baltimore-Washington Airport. He's got this report.
Some airlines tried to get ahead of Charlie, announcing last night that flights to some Florida cities would be canceled today. For the airlines that played a game of wait and see, well, some of their passengers got the bad news the hard way. Brothers Nicholas and Mark Evich were supposed to be spending the night at Disney World. Instead, their father's on the phone trying to find the Carroll County family another way to get to their Florida vacation.
Well, we just got here. We just found out that flight had been canceled. So we're just, this is their first airline trip. So we were kind of hoping for a smoother ride.
Melody and Andy Spears are also trying to get to Central Florida. The Fairfax couple is on their honeymoon.
Well, we were originally scheduled for one of the last flights out of Baltimore to Orlando, and they canceled those flights. So we rescheduled for the 6:10, which got canceled. So now we're jumping around. We're down in Fort Lauderdale if we can get standby on this flight, and then we'll rent a car and go up to Orlando for the rest of our honeymoon. So
Hurricane Charlie has shut down runways in Orlando, Jacksonville, and Tampa, leaving countless passengers stranded at all 3 Washington area airports. Southwest Airlines forced to ground 10 flights from BWI to Florida. Vanessa Kramer had to pack up and head back to her home in York, Pennsylvania.
We've been calling all day long, and they said, no, their flight is on schedule. They canceled it as I'm standing in that check-in line, literally at the same time.
The Skycaps tell us most passengers stranded by Charlie have taken the disruption in stride, but there have been exceptions.
Our supervisor was just out here, and we had a guy threaten him and say he wanted to see his supervisor. And he was telling them, we're not the pilots.
Southwest Airlines officials say they're planning to resume normal operations to Orlando, Tampa, and Jacksonville in the morning, but will first need to reevaluate matters once Hurricane Charlie leaves Florida. At BWI, Bob Barnard, Fox 5 News.
Authorities in Tampa have announced their airport will reopen at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. No word yet on the status of other airports in Florida shut down because of the hurricane.
Now, even if many of those people you saw in that last story had a flight, some of them would still want to try and avoid the Florida region tonight because thousands, though, of Red Cross volunteers in our area are on standby, ready to go there if their help is needed. The agency is coordinating its biggest response since the 9/11 attacks in order to deal with Hurricane Charlie. Fox 5's Matt Eklund is live tonight at their National Disaster Operations Center with more on their preparations. Hi, Matt.
Hi, Sean. As you can imagine, things are very busy in the building behind me. Earlier today, the American Red Cross allowed us to come inside, take a look at their command center, but this evening they are too busy dealing with the situation in Florida. Now, this is where all of the decisions are being made, where the help goes first and who needs it most. Tracking the huge storm on radar and watching TV reports coming in from Florida, all day long the American Red Cross Disaster Operations Center here in Northwest remained on high alert. Red Cross administrators in constant contact with emergency management officials in Florida. As soon as the storm made landfall, the Red Cross was ready to move in to help those in need.
We're just waiting, watching, and making sure that we're there right away when the storm hits.
Thousands of volunteers from across the country put on standby. Once it is safe, they will be advised to move into places hit hard by Charlie. With them, those volunteers will take tons of supplies, including food and clothing. Tonight, the Red Cross says this is the largest emergency response they've dealt with in several years.
This is a pretty massive response. This is the largest Red Cross response since 9/11. With 2 hurricanes converging on Florida, we've pre-positioned people, supplies, and support all across the state of Florida.
Here in the metro Washington area, American Red Cross volunteers are being told to stay put for now. With Charley hitting Florida hard tonight, forecasters say it could give us quite a punch later this weekend. And if it does, those volunteers will be needed here at home. Now, we are told that the command center will remain open around the clock as that storm heads north. Officials here at the American Red Cross say if the storm does hit other areas of the country, they have personnel in place to handle the situations, not only in Florida, but anywhere else. Live in Northwest, Matt Ackland, Fox 5 News. Sean.
They're going to need all the help they can get. Matt, thank you. If you would like to help out the Red Cross, help some of those people that were hit hard by Hurricane Charley, you can call the Disaster Relief Fund. The number's there on your screen, 1-800-HELP-NOW.
And you can bet we are continuing to watch this storm very closely.
Fox 5 has continuing coverage of Hurricane Charley. We are on the flood watch in our area. Karen Myers now with shopkeepers hoping to stay dry.
Sean, everyone here in Old Town is on pins and needles awaiting this storm. They hope that these sandbags are the answer. That's coming up.
And, of course, we'll have tonight's other top stories, including an arrest in a deadly stabbing in Georgetown, as well as the hunt for a top Islamic cleric hiding out in Iraq.
But first, another look tonight at the wrath of Hurricane Charley plowing through parts of Florida. We'll take you back live to an area hit hard by the storm. That's still ahead.
Our storm watch continues now with a look at the aftermath of Hurricane Charley. Charley already clobbered the southwestern part of Florida, and tonight many people there are just beginning to assess all the damage that was left behind. Right now, the entire state of Florida is under a state of emergency. The storm, as we speak, is bearing down on the tourist-packed area of Orlando, and then it's headed on for Daytona Beach, Florida. Charley hit the southwest coast about 6 hours ago and is still carving a very powerful path of destruction. For an update now, we send it back to Jonathan Seri live in Tampa. Jonathan, for folks who are not familiar with the landscape there, you're in Tampa, and the storm now is headed towards Orlando and then on to Daytona Beach. Explain how far away that is from where you are.
Right now, we're looking at the storm over the city of Orlando or near the city of Orlando. As far as getting in your car and driving, it's a little bit more than an hour from here, and then driving from Orlando to Daytona Beach, probably another hour there. So you're talking about perhaps a 2-hour or a little bit more than a 100-mile trip from where I am right now.
It's an idea of what it's like there. It looks relatively calm behind you. I know originally the path of the storm was thought to hit Tampa, but it missed you guys and went further east. What are things like there for you right now?
That's right. The things are completely calm here right now. When the storm hit, we got a little bit of rain, a little bit of wind, but nothing more than what you would see in a typical thunderstorm here on the west coast of Florida. Originally, we thought we were going to get the brunt of the storm here in Tampa and that I would be under 16 feet of water, but at the last minute, the storm took this unexpected turn to the east, and instead of striking Tampa, it struck southwest Florida, several communities a little bit more than 100 miles to the south of where I am, and did some extensive damage there.
We were just looking at some of the pictures of the damage. We understand that a number of roofs were ripped off of buildings and homes. At this point, do you know if the storm has affected in terms of lives lost? Has it affected anyone that way?
It depends on what you would directly attribute to the storm. All we know of are 2 fatalities in a city called Punta Gorda, and they were actually involved in a traffic accident, or 2 separate traffic accidents, but authorities are saying that they could be attributable to the storm and the bad road conditions that the heavy winds and rains were causing. So they're blaming the storm on 2 fatalities at this point.
Right now, we do know that Charley is bearing down on Orlando. How is it affecting tourism there? Because we know this is a very heavily populated area with Disney World, a number of its parks there. What's the situation as far as tourists are concerned?
Well, early this afternoon, Disney World shut down, as did the other theme parks in the Orlando area. So the tourists were essentially stranded there with nothing to do but hunker down in their hotel rooms. And I'm sure they're in their hotel rooms right now because they're clocking 77-mile-an-hour winds with gusts in excess of 100 miles an hour. Now, in addition to the usual tourists that you find in the city of Orlando, you're going to find those hotels packed with evacuees from Tampa. When they thought that the hurricane was going to strike here, many people left Tampa for Orlando, thinking that things would be safe over there. Very ironic.
Ironic indeed. Jonathan Seri live in Tampa, Florida for us tonight. Thank you. And by the way, we should mention, in fact, the last time Disney World closed for a hurricane was back in 1999 when Hurricane Floyd hit. Charlie is coming on the heels of yet another deadly storm. Tropical Storm Bonnie spawned several tornadoes when it moved through the eastern North Carolina area late this afternoon. Late yesterday. At least 3 people died, including 1 child in a trailer park in Rocky Point. Dozens of other people there were hurt.
And as we know, Sean, Bonnie came through our area without much of a problem, but the effects of Hurricane Charlie are still to come. That is triggering flooding fears throughout the metro area tonight. Many residents of Old Town Alexandria are veterans of previous storms, and tonight they are getting ready, as they have before, for those rising waters from the Potomac. We continue our storm coverage now with Fox 5's Karen Myers in Old Town. Karen?
Laura, you know, by the looks of it, with all these people out here enjoying the nice night, strolling the street, listening to music, eating outside, you never know that a big storm is headed our way. But if you look more closely, you'll see some of the preps, like these sandbags piled up outside almost every business and home here in Old Town. Few people are taking any chances. Mary Peters stocks up on sandbags provided by the city of Alexandria.
After Isabel, we're a little shy and kind of concerned that it could happen again. We didn't expect it to be quite that bad last time either, and it was. So I think we're just all being cautious.
Apparently so, because less than 24 hours ago, this sand pile stood 5 feet high.
My neighbor and I, we actually went and filled sandbags up today, probably about 12 bags or so. Put them up on our doorstep.
The city delivered pre-made sandbags to businesses. The Christmas Addict on Union Street also put up plywood, hoping a second layer of protection will keep them dry. After Isabel, their ornaments were swimming in 4 feet of water.
At nights, we were taking up items off the floor, everything from about anything under 2 feet, we're bringing them up.
But still open for business. Shop owners fear even the threat of rain will hamper sales. They lost millions after Isabel in revenue and in recovery. The water came up to the CD shelves at Olson's Books and Records. They removed the carpet and never replaced it, a move that could work in their favor this go-round. The drill has become all too familiar.
As you can see, we got our paper product all up high.
The waterfront is prone to flooding, yet the effects of Hurricane Charlie could challenge even these seasoned veterans. A sign of the seriousness, the post office already yanked its mailbox and the road barricades are on standby. Now, the big concern here is tomorrow night at 8:30. That's when high tide hits. The combination of tidal flooding and continuous rain could put Old Town underwater again. But right now, I mean, check it out. There are a lot of people out enjoying the nice summer weather while they can. Laura?
Yeah, calm before the storm, and these people have been through this before many times. Karen, thank you. Now, if you live in Alexandria, you can fill sandbags at 500 South Union Street. Sandbags themselves are also available at the intersections of Pitt and Gibbon and at Commonwealth Avenue and Reed Avenue. No word yet whether this one is weather-related, but an underground sewage leak is being blamed for this massive sinkhole at Richard Montgomery High School in Rockville. Take a look. Sky Fox captured these pictures of the earth collapse, and as you can see here, a portion of a tennis court was actually swallowed up here. Engineers have been called in to figure out how to fix it.
A sewer backup in one Montgomery County community has finally been fixed, but tonight residents are still dealing with the stinky situation. Basements remain soaked with raw sewage, and so far sanitation workers have been slow to respond. Fox 5's Maureen Ume tells us this stroke of bad luck for residents is making coping with the big mess more difficult this Friday the 13th.
Hey, don't do that. This is what some residents in the Lay Hill Square townhome community in Silver Spring woke up to this morning. Sewer water bubbling into their basements from drains and pipes.
But this stench is terrible.
The contaminated water soaked everything it touched, destroying carpets, furniture, books, and more. Now homeowners like Abdul Kamara are left with quite a mess and concerned for their health and safety.
Well, I'm worried about fungus, disease or whatever you could think about.
Washington Suburban Sanitation Commission officials say a huge grease blockage located somewhere in this drain is to blame for the sewer backup. They say it's not an uncommon problem, but it can be hard to correct. It took crews several hours to relieve the blockage here. Now residents have a big cleanup on their hands. WSSC officials are sending crews out to help, but some homeowners say they've been too slow to respond and are taking matters into their own hands, hiring their own cleanup crews to do the job.
I mean, I want them to tackle the problem as soon as possible because of bacteria or any other issues.
Bro and some of her neighbors are anxious for things to get back to normal, hoping never to have to wake up to a mess like this anytime soon.
Definitely Friday the 13th. It's been a horrible Friday.
In Silver Spring, Maureen Ume, Fox 5 News.
Oh, we hope they get some help soon. Now, in addition to that grease blockage you heard Maureen mention, neighbors say they also believe recent heavy rains may have also played a role in their sewer backups. Now, here are a few things that you can do to prevent the sewers and storm drains in your neighborhood from flooding. Clear leaves and debris away from those outside grates. Also, make sure your downspouts flow away from your home, and talk to your plumber about installing a sump pump.
Coming up.
When it comes to politics, President Bush and John Kerry are at opposite ends, but today both were campaigning in the same city.
And New Jersey's governor is stepping down, but some say not soon enough. Opponents say he is unfit for office, but the governor's aides say he is the victim of a smear campaign. We'll be right back.
It's a 2-hour Cops Marathon that will test stamina, aim, and strength.
Ew.
The Cops of Fun. Saturday at 8 on Fox 5.
Hyundai's winning streak summer clearances.
Tonight in Iraq, radical cleric Muqtada al-Sadr is spelling out his demands for peace in Najaf. Al-Sadr says he wants U.S. troops out of the city and the freedom of his captured militiamen. The fighting in Najaf, meantime, has stopped as both sides negotiate a ceasefire. Meantime, al-Sadr remains holed up in a mosque said to be one of the holiest sites in Shiite Islam. Coalition forces are stationed outside, but have promised not to storm the site. Tonight, flags are flying at half-staff at Andrews Air Force Base in honor of a local man lost in Iraq. 49-year-old Rick Albright was killed in a mortar attack at a Kirkuk air base. The Waldorf man had a long career with the Air Force, both as a member of the sworn military and in recent years as a civilian. Fox 5's John Henrahan reports Albright volunteered to go to Iraq.
Flowers piled up throughout the day at the Waldorf, Maryland home where Rick Albright and his wife lived. For the past 2 years, Rick Albright held a job at Andrews Air Force Base as an agent for the Air Force's Office of Special Investigations. As an expert polygraph operator, Albright did security screening examinations and sometimes supported other federal and military agencies which needed his skills. Rick Albright joined the Air Force as an enlisted man in 1977 and served a 20-year career, earning a college degree in criminal justice and retiring as a master sergeant. He liked polygraph work and took a civilian job with the Air Force upon retiring, coming back to Andrews in June of 2002. Colleagues say he volunteered to go to Iraq and had been there about 2 months. Rick Albright was killed in action Sunday when the U.S. Air Base in Kirkuk was attacked by either rockets or mortars or both. He is survived by his wife, 2 adult daughters, a son-in-law, and a granddaughter who was born right around the time Rick Albright volunteered to go to Iraq. John Henrahan, Fox 5 News.
Rick Albright's 2-month-old granddaughter was christened today at a memorial service for the war veteran.
An arrest tonight in a suspected gang murder in Prince William County. Wilfredo Montoya Baresi is accused of shooting a man to death at a Manassas townhome Wednesday night. Police say the killing appears to be related to the MS-13 gang. The 25-year-old Montoya Barres is charged with first-degree murder. He's being held without bond until a hearing next month. A suspect is under arrest tonight for the fatal stabbing of a Maryland man in Georgetown. 32-year-old Keith Marcus Watson was walking with his friends on M Street last weekend when he bumped into another man. Police say words were exchanged and Watson was stabbed and killed. Today, 26-year-old Corey Magruder of College Park turned himself into D.C. police. He is now charged with second-degree murder.
Changing gears a little bit now. Did I see you drinking tea earlier tonight?
You did indeed.
Laura.
But I'm not warming up for anything.
Laura and dozens of other folks out there may be drinking some hot tea this weekend. Why drink tea, you wonder? Well, yeah, there's just 5 days to go before those American Idol auditions. They want to get those vocal cords warmed up. But Simon and Paula are not the only ones that are looking for talent in D.C. We're going to tell you why the district is becoming a hot spot for some new music and how you can get on board.
And finally,
Those American Idol judges are coming to D.C. with some pretty big expectations. You know, after all, Washington was a starting point for singing sensations like Genuine, Toni Braxton. But do today's local singers and songwriters have what it takes to join the Idol ranks? With just 5 days to go before the big auditions right here, Fox 5's Wisdom Martin takes us inside D.C.'s evolving music scene.
From the hard-hitting drums and the booming bass to the unique vocals. Since the early 70s, the go-go sound has always been the signature music identified with Washington, D.C. But now the local talent wants to turn the music spotlight in another direction.
The Washington, D.C. music scene is filled with superb talent. I mean, we have talent like no other. I mean, this is a city where Marvin Gaye came out of.
R&B singer Toni Braxton is from the area, so is songstress Maya and Genuine. Beyonce producer Rich Harrison is also from here. Some say the talented people simply need to join forces and stay here to do their music.
I think it's sad that you have like Grammy-winning producers here with other producers like myself with studios that aren't working together.
With all the talent leaving D.C., the question is, can this area ever match the Big Apple's music-making power?
I doubt it because of so many people being up there. Can it be an effective hub like Atlanta? Yeah.
In fact, a lot of the up-and-coming artists like Deborah Bond are choosing to come to Washington, D.C. instead of New York to kick off their careers.
In my opinion, I think there's so much going on in New York that it's so easy to just get lost in the mix. I think in this area, we do have a nice, solid art scene, music scene, but because it's not like New York and it's so busy and there's so many people, it's so much easier to stand out here and to get discovered here.
We keep alive live music, live instrumentation, as far as like your listen bands, your Chuck Browns, and all that type of situation. So DC definitely has a strong heartbeat for music. It's just that just recently we're starting to get the voice that will it actually expands.
Most local musicians believe eventually it will happen, and D.C. will become more than just the home of go-go. It could be the next music hotspot for all kinds of music. Wisdom Martin, Fox 5 News.
Speaking of up-and-coming stars, DC's American Idol 4 auditions are coming up next week. They will be held Wednesday, August the 18th at the Washington Convention Center. And hey, we have some good news for you. Parking will be available at RFK Stadium beginning at 5 a.m. Monday the 16th. It'll cost you $5. For more details, you can log on to idolonfox.com.
Operating costs apparently too much for one airline. Another bumpy ride for U.S. Airways. Sagging finances may lead to another bankruptcy filing. That could force the Arlington-based airline out of the skies. Fox 5's Karen Gray Houston has the latest.
Some passengers are booking more tickets on U.S. Airways these days, but that's not necessarily a good sign for the airline, especially with speculation the airline may be dangerously close to a collapse.
Since I saw that, I'm going to try burning up my frequent flyer miles now.
U.S. Airways is working desperately to cut costs. It needs some $800 million in labor concessions from pilots, flight attendants, ticket counter agents, and other employees.
As a traveling public, I'd be concerned the level of service, the level of performance, because, unhappy employees don't perform well.
The pilots' union at U.S. Airways commissioned the report that says the carrier will fail within the immediately foreseeable future. In a statement, the Airline Pilots Association says it is not commenting publicly on the specifics of the report, other than to say that we do not disagree in principle with the conclusions reached by our investment banker. Worst case scenario, let's say U.S. Airways has to liquidate. If the airline has to shut down its D.C. operations, it would cost some people their jobs. But what about the effect on the traveling public?
Other carriers will fill that service void very, very quickly. So as far as travelers are concerned, there'll be other airlines operating on those routes.
It doesn't take an analyst to figure that out.
They'll go out of business and somebody else will take the gates, and it'll have no effect on me in the long run. There'll be a week there where it gets ugly.
U.S. Airways isn't commenting on specifics, just says it is in the best interest of the company and employees that we quickly reach consensual agreements with all of our labor unions.
The fundamental question for many people is, including the creditors, is U.S. Airways worth more dead than alive?
At National Airport, Karen Gray Houston, Fox 5 News.
Aviation experts say it's overhead costs like too many hubs and competition from smaller independent airlines that are dragging down big carriers like U.S. Airways.
We're going to have much more in our big story tonight. Of course, the weather, Hurricane Charlie still barreling up the state of Florida.
Well, these are some pictures of the storm right now. It could be headed our way. So Gary, Charlie on track to head up the East Coast?
Sure is. We will see nothing like that, but we may just get a little bit of taste of Charlie before it's all said and done. We'll have details coming up in your complete Fox 5 forecast. Stay with us.
You're looking at video right now from Port Charlotte, Florida. Hurricane Charlie barreling across the state right now with heavy winds and heavy rains, winds up to 145 miles per hour at one point in time. At last count, 2 million people were ordered to evacuate, some 700,000 people without power right now. Damage there is estimated to be in the billions of dollars. President Bush has declared parts of Florida major disaster areas.
And we know tonight also 2 people killed in that storm as well, traffic-related accidents.
And now the big question, I guess we're all wondering is, as that makes its track, is it going to affect us up here?
It sure could if it stays in line. Let me just tell you something, too. I tell you what, 145 mile an hour winds can blow a car right off the road, if you're just wondering about that. And the highest wind gust I saw reported down there today was about 127 miles per hour. Now then, we have some showers and some thunderstorms developing just to the south of us. Again, south of Fredericksburg. This looks like it's going to shift on to the east, though, but we still have a chance for some showers, especially down to the south overnight tonight. Look at some numbers right now. Temperatures are pretty much holding in the 70s across the area now. Very comfortable. It's not been a bad day at all, but the numbers are coming in like this. At D.C., it's 72 degrees right now, and then down to the south, the numbers 75 degrees for Norfolk, and Richmond is 74 degrees. If I stand here, I hope I can get the temperatures to come up. There we go. Richmond is 74, Charleston is 62, Elkins is 59, Pittsburgh is 60 degrees. It has been a pretty nice day today, but that is all going to begin to change tonight and then for tomorrow too, because we will start to feel the effects. There is a flash flood watch in effect for tomorrow and into Sunday morning for just about everybody here. If you're watching us, you have the flash flood watch in effect for you. And this is the satellite picture of Charlie. It doesn't look too terribly impressive right now, but the winds are still up at 90 miles per hour, and that is good enough to have hurricane warnings in effect. So the hurricane warnings run all up along the southeastern coast. Notice the pink here from Cape Hatteras back up to the bay here, the Chesapeake Bay. That is a tropical storm watch. So by tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow evening, as Charlie continues to move up to the north here, even though he's weakening, he will indeed begin to spread some tropical storm force winds into our neighborhood. Now then, here is the track from the National Hurricane Center, right now just on top of Orlando. Now the next few hours, I think he will reemerge back over the Atlantic Ocean. That will give him at least a period of time to go ahead and strengthen back up a little bit and then come right on shore somewhere in the central sections of South Carolina, right up through North Carolina, and by Sunday morning, I think, the heart of what's left over from Charlie will be spilling into the area. So right now in Orlando, briefly over the ocean, back up into North Carolina, and then by that period of time, it looks like right at a very weak tropical storm, just transitioning into a tropical depression. I think Saturday morning around here, we could have some wind speeds right around 40 to 45 miles per hour and plenty of heavy rain. I do believe, though, looking at this track, the heaviest of the rain will stay to the east of us. Right along the shores, there'll be some coastal flooding, 4 to 6 inches of rain. Here in the district, I think 2 inches of rain. Once Charlie moves on by, will rapidly begin to get better around here, and skies will quickly clear as we go in through Sunday afternoon. 66 tonight, mostly clouds, could have some showers to the south, and it's a little bit breezy out of the northwest. Tomorrow, showers, thunderstorms becoming likely, heavy rain at times. The breeze will kick up, north-northeast 9 to 17. Tomorrow night and Sunday morning, periods of heavy rain. That's when the gusty winds move in. Again, I think wind gusts 35 to 40 miles per hour, sustained about 20 miles per hour around here. Once Charlie and the remnants of him is moving through. Here's a look at your 5-day forecast. Once we get through the weekend, things quickly look better. 78 tomorrow. Once again, heavy rain potential for flooding is there. If he shifts off coast, off the coast, we could be in good shape.
All right. Thank you very much, Gary.
Well, the question is, how is this going to affect the Redskins game tomorrow night, too?
Uh-oh.
Redskins.
It is a wait and see.
Lou Holder here with that answer.
A lot of rain means running the football a lot. A lot of running the football a lot. Soggy Redskins and Panthers affair tomorrow night at FedEx. And that means the return of Stephen Davis. We'll hear from him. Plus, Tiger Woods, could he avoid missing the cut? His record cut streak in serious jeopardy. Did he make it? Find out on the other side.
And now, Fox 5 Sports with Lou Holder.
All right, Tiger Woods keeps insisting to anyone who will listen that his game is close to returning to championship form. Well, to the casual observer, he is close to the cut line. His record 128th consecutive cut-made streak clearly on the line today. But the shot of the day belongs to this man, Robert Gomez, on 17, the par 3, 223 yards, and oh, this ace helps him make the cut at 1 over. Speaking of cut, back to Tiger, in jeopardy because of drives like this on 5. And people straight into the drink. He'd bogey the hole and find himself 3 over par after 12 holes. But Tiger always seems to have something in the bag. After birdies on 13 and 16, Drano on 17, he'd keep the streak alive. 3 under 69 to finish even par. He's 9 shots back of your leaders, Justin Leonard and Vijay Singh. Tomorrow night, another in the many firsts for Joe Gibbs in his return to coaching. The first home game for the Hall of Fame coach. The remnants of Hurricane Charlie will make it a wet FedEx debut, but Gibbs knows that the diehard fans he remembers from RFK haven't changed.
I haven't been in this stadium, but I felt like that we've had a tremendous advantage at RFK because it was an older stadium, it was different, and the fans were close, and they were loud. And and I know they're going to, I know they're loud here too. We got a lot of them in there. So our fans, the one thing about being in Washington, I never question that. Are we going to have our fans, best I remember, I don't care what the weather was. It was jam-packed. I mean, I don't care how cold it was, raining, jam-packed every seat. And I always admired that about our people.
All right, former Redskin Stephen Davis and the NFC champion Carolina Panthers are in town tomorrow. Davis, who has many friends still on the team, is making his first trip to FedEx since his departure over a year ago. Big Country does wish he had a chance to play for Joe Gibbs.
It came a couple years too late, but I feel that he's going to get things turned around there, and hopefully we can see them in the NFC Championship game or something.
How great is it going to be seeing him? Do you keep in touch with him a lot?
Oh, I keep in touch. I talk to him all the time. And I know he's excited to come back in Washington because, this is where he started at. But, it's one thing to see him on the opposite side of the ball, but it's one thing to go out here and enjoy ourselves and have fun.
All right, former Redskin QB Doug Williams in town this weekend at the grand opening of the Sports Authority in Largo, Maryland. The most valuable player of Super Bowl 22 and one of the 70 greatest Redskins is now a personnel executive for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Being at FedEx tomorrow working for another team will be a bit weird.
My heart is still here in the D.C. area because I know what happened with me and to me up here and the fans here and how they cheered the Redskins and myself on when I was here. So it's a weird feeling, to be honest with you. When I got my parking pass to go to the game next on tomorrow night, I said, man, I'm going up there as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, not as a Redskin.
All right, the O's beat Toronto 4-0, 10 of the last 11 for the Baltimore Orioles.
All right.
That's your look at sports.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight at 10.
We'll have all the latest news, weather, and traffic tomorrow night. Fox 5 News at 10, and the latest on Charlie.
Have a good evening. Bye-bye.